Okay, it's our pleasure today to welcome a couple of folks. We have kind of a three-part presentation today, or two-part. The first part is the director of the Port of Camas-Washougal, David Ripp, is going to give us an overview of the port. And then the second part of the presentation is actually going to be about a developer that is doing they're developing in the port, and we're going to talk a little bit about their process of doing that and dealing with the port, but they're also going to talk about the opportunities inherent in solar energy right now as a way to enhance your offering as a building owner. So it's going to be, I've had a chance to meet with these folks, and I think you're going to really like what they have to say. So with that, please welcome David Ripp. Is it up here? The clicker? Oh, the clicker, it's right there. Here. You can wander. Would you rather have a mic that?
No, this is fine. I'll stand up here.
Perfect. That's probably hot too. You don't even have to hold that. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. I'll do my first karaoke here. Thank you. Again, my name is David Ripp. I'm the executive director for the Port of Camas-Washougal. Just a little bit about Camas and Washougal. Our community, we serve an ideal lifestyle with an abundance of recreational opportunities. We have hiking, biking, windsurfing, a lot of opportunities for different types of recreational fun in our area. We're home to 45,000 citizens in our port district. We're also known for our award-winning schools. I'm not sure if you're aware of Camas High School and their ability to continue to go to state football championships, but great team. This year alone, the school district is going to be investing $58 million into the Camas School District through construction of new school as well as other capital improvements. And also, the Camas area in 2014 was ranked in the top 10 best towns for families to live in Family Circle magazine. So, a lot of things are happening in the Camas-Washougal area, and the planning and the foresight of what both city councils are doing is helping us benefit us from us being able to market and develop our property. A little bit about the port. We own and operate a general aviation airport and marina. The port also supports our community, and we're very involved in our community. We host several well-attended summer events and concerts at both of these venues at the airport as well as our marina. Our airport, Grove Field, is home to 80 hangars and 16 tie-downs, and very active airport. We have an association with about probably 40-plus members that have monthly meetings and help provide information and guidance to us here at the port. Our marina, we have 350 slips, ranging from anywhere between 20 and 40 feet. In length. We also have a breakwater that can house up ships up to several hundred feet. Besides both those assets, the port is also currently working on some industrial and commercial development. Our waterfront development, which I'll talk about a little bit further on in the presentation, and as well as our Steigerwald Commerce Center industrial development, and I'll be talking about that as well. But just a little bit more information on the port. In regards to our revenues, you can see we have a diverse revenue set coming in through our business units, being the airport, the marina, industrial park. Our main revenue source coming in directly from the development side of the industrial park. One of the things that we do, being a governmental entity, we have a taxing ability, and we collect roughly about 49% of our revenues, 50% of our revenues come from taxes. But the nice thing I like to brag about is 100% of those taxes that we collect from our taxpayers, me being one of them because I live in Camas, 100% of that is invested back in the port. It doesn't go to cover any of our general administrative fees, costs, my salary, anything. Our operating revenues developed from our operating businesses cover those expenses. So operating expenses are covered by our operating revenues. So it's one thing I like to brag about when I'm out talking about the port is 100% of those tax dollars are invested right back into other opportunities to create jobs as well as recreational opportunities. As you can see, our expense side in comparison is about the same. Most of our expense side is into maintaining and operating our industrial park. One of the things we've been very beneficial, we benefited from is our planning and development of our industrial area. We've maintained 100% occupancy in roughly 272,000 square feet of building space for the last 3 years. The last building that's under construction right now is a 25,000 square foot building, and before we even broke ground, we had 3 businesses sign up for leases. So, I mean, I can't build quick enough. I think Max can kind of attest to it. Max Alt from the Columbia River Economic Development Council. Him and his partner, Denise McCarty, is always on my back to build more building space so we can get more businesses in the Camas-Washougal area. As I talked about earlier, our airport, we had a devastating fire in 2014 and took out roughly 10 hangars and we lost 8 airplanes. Fortunately, no injuries, personal injuries there, but we have a reconstruction of those hangars now, as well as a new FBO building that will be starting roughly probably in the next 30 to 45 days. As I mentioned, we are working on some waterfront development. Our waterfront property is located along State Route Highway 14, just minutes away from Interstate 205. Roughly about a half a mile waterfront, which is located right along the Columbia River. We have the site's roughly about 40 acres of highway commercial. This photo here is showing the development of our waterfront park and trail. The park's roughly about 3 acres and about 0.8 of a mile of trail along the waterfront, which we're calling that phase 1. Phase 2, the city of Washougal will continue that trail, and it'll tie into. They'll take the trail for another roughly a mile, and it'll tie into our levee system trail, and it'll be a kind of a tie into downtown Washougal, all the way from the port, going underneath Highway 14 and connecting right to the city. So I think it's going to be a benefit to have this park and trail add significant value to the development of the site when we look at Class A office space, highway commercial, maybe mixed use. There could be a residential component in this development as well. Kind of a bird's eye view of the potential of this property along the river. Our other big development is our Steigerwald Commerce Center. This site offers roughly about 85 acres of heavy industrial for lease or purchase. That's some flexibility that this port. I was previously the director at the Port of Woodland from 94 till 2007, and the commission at that port was strictly lease. We would not sell property. This commission has taken a different stance in the development of this site and is willing to consider the sale of that property. And then with the view is that the revenue we receive out that property will invest right back into other development. This site also has an approved development agreement. We're offering a flexibility in lot sizes from 2 acres up to right now. We could go up to about 50 acres in the development of that site. We're minutes away from Portland International Airport. We're within 30 minutes of 2 deep water ports, the Port of Portland and the Port of Vancouver. This next year, or this year actually, we'll be starting phase 2 of that development site. Here's one of the buildings that were just completed, our building 17, which will be up and operational at January 28th. This is the building that I mentioned earlier that before we broke ground, we had the building completely leased out, and the first tenant will be moving in on February 1st. With the port having 100% occupancy and needing more building space, we're starting phase 2 of the development of the Steigerwald Steigerwald Commerce Center. We're doing our Grant Street expansion project, and in tying with that, we're looking at building either a 25 to 50,000 square foot building in 2017. The size difference depends on whether or not we are approved for an EDA grant that we're looking at going after. But that would be total spec and have a lot of flexibility in bay sizes in trying to lease that property out. Here's a little bit of phasing. As I mentioned, Grant Street Extension, where we were looking at doing that in 2017 as a construction phase, but being that our phase 1, we had planned on developing that out in 5 to 7 years, and we've completed that in roughly 3. And so we're deciding that we needed to move ahead quicker than planned, and adding another 1,000 lineal feet of street with infrastructure, power, water, electricity, gas, and that'll open up roughly about 55 acres of land. And you can kind of see the phasing in this map. Do I have a clicker here? No. You can at the bottom of the map, you can see where the road's red. That's the extension that we're adding right there, and that'll open up a number of acres for that development. Just to sum up, both the properties I had mentioned, our waterfront development and our industrial development, we have development agreements already approved through the city of Washougal. Again, on both those properties, we offer a lot of flexibility in either lease or purchase. And you'll be hearing from Eric and Bob here shortly, but the city of Washougal can offer fast-track permitting. It moves very quickly. They're great to work with. We also have different financing options as well. We fall within the high qualified census tract, and which will help you qualify for new market tax credits. And we have formed our own CDE. The port in both cities formed our own community development entity to go after new market tax credits. So we have some flexibility there to help you in that guidance. And we also, besides the Columbia River Economic Development Council, we formed our own association, more or less just to focus on the Camas and Washougal area. We're still partners, we still are members, and we support the CRDC 100%, and we actually work together in different types with each other in bringing different companies to our area. So the message I want to come across, and what I've showed you guys here today is, we are talking about having potential companies come to our area, but we're not looking at their investment. We're actually looking at what we've been investing in our properties. And to date, for 2015, we invested roughly $6 million in capital projects at the port. This year alone, we're roughly around $4.5 million. And so we're continuing to invest in our community, invest in our port, and with the betterment and trying to create family wage jobs. Thank you. And you want to do questions now?
Well, is there a possibility we could get a copy of this and send it to our administrators so that we
Yeah.
can cap that as a resource?
Definitely. I'll send you I'll get your card and send you that information.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Why should Portland businesses move there?
Because taxes being one, I don't have the numbers, but the business that we're dealing with in Portland and are coming here, we're not fishing, we're not going after Portland businesses, they're coming to us. And one of the things I hear complaints about is Multnomah County, and they're getting taxed out of their business. It's cheaper to do business over in our area. Plus, I think right now, property taxes are less expensive, land purchasing is less expensive, and I think there's a lot of more flexibility in working with the city of Washougal or the city of Camas in your development project. Thank you very much, and I'll be around if you guys have any other further questions, and I'll make sure to get your card, get that information out. Thank you.
Okay.
I left the clicker up.
Okay, great. Hello, I'm Eric Folkstead. I'm with Century Northwest. Bob Burrows is over here. Bob, you want to raise your hand? So we want to thank Craig and Dave for inviting us here today. We want to tell you a little bit about this project. And you probably, talking about a building is probably not that exciting, but this one is a little different. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at some of the things that you learn about this particular project. And I want to thank David Ripp for coming out. The Port of Camas, Washougal is fantastic. They are very, the best term I guess is access. You can actually go there and sit down and talk to the head guy, which is awesome. A lot of times, when you're working with these big quasi-municipal outfits, you're sitting in the lobby a long time, and oh, by the way, I can't see that guy today. The port has been fantastic, and the city of Washougal, the permitting agency, again, David mentioned, is very good to work with. So a little bit about me. I went to Chapman grade school. Anybody go to Chapman in here? I went to Lincoln High School. I actually graduated, played on the football team, and then I went to Oregon State. Now, the Beavers have had a rough year, and they're in rebuilding. But I've got to say, after this weekend, you know, when the Beavers aren't in any kind of playoff, I root for the Ducks. You know, all my brothers are Ducks. And, man, I'm going through withdrawal right now. That second half of that game the other day was kind of hard to swallow. And Bob and I were talking about it on the way over, you know. But you got to be proud of, I went to Oregon State in the dark times, okay? Back when we were 0-9, you know, the Pac-10, the Pac-8, remember that? So anyway, well, it's great to be here. I did go to OSU in engineering. Past 7 years, I've worked in unmanned systems industry, building airplanes for the government, and which has been highly successful, and it's a tool the military uses now that they have to have. It's the eyes in the sky, you know, to protect our men and women. And fortunately, the projects I worked on, we didn't carry bombs, we didn't blow people up or anything, but we did have nice cameras on there, which were made in Hood River, Oregon. By the way, our autopilots and our cameras are all made right here in Oregon, so it's pretty cool. FLIR systems, and that type of thing. So it's great to be a native. But now I live in Camas, and I've lived there. My kids went to Camas High. They're all grown up. None of them are in jail. So I'm very proud of them. And I'm a grandfather. And so anyway, I'm not from California. I'm from right here, and glad to be here. So, okay, so what we want to talk about today is the Steigerwald Commerce Center, and we're developing a industrial building there. It's very similar to the ones you've just seen, and but there's one twist to it. It's going to have a community solar system on the roof, and so I'll explain a little bit about that. So let's see if this works. So this is another picture of the Port of Washougal. So if you look, and I think, oh yeah, I got the laser beam here. Well, it's hard to see, but down here, we are right on the river. How many have been out to the port at all, been down to that area? It's beautiful. They have a hiking path right along the river. You walk along the dike there. Lots of wildlife. It's probably the most beautiful port district you'll ever see. It's incredible. And right at the bottom of this picture, you can see the far edge. That would be the east edge of it, and then the wildlife refuge is just to the east of that. So you're entering a protected area. So there will be no development to the east ever in here. So it's a great location. Okay. This is hard to see, but this David mentioned it's 100% fully leased. There's no room in there. So anything that's new that goes in is a high demand. Okay. We're a few facts, you know, it's zoned heavy industrial. There's some tax incentives. By the way, if you have a aerospace company, I was doing the research on these tax incentives because I was in aerospace. Aerospace companies don't pay any sales tax on the building or the equipment that goes in there. Did you know that? State of Washington? That's 8.4%. And the equipment that we use in aerospace is more expensive than the building. Okay, so we pay that's a huge incentive in Washington. So Washington does play the game, you know. It's nice having Boeing, you know, in Washington, okay? It's very nice. And that's not the only one. There's other industries. I'm not a tax expert. You can do the research, but I noticed the seafood place across the street, they have a tax incentive for processing seafood. They don't pay B&O tax. So there's a lot of advantages there. There's no state income tax. I grew up in Oregon. I pay the state income tax. It's what, 10% now? Close to 10, 9, 10%? And then if you live in Multnomah County, is it more? Yeah. We don't have that, not yet. I don't think we're going to get it. But our sales tax is about 8.4%, okay? But everybody pays that one. I like those kind of taxes, okay? Except aerospace. And then we're 100% leased. Okay, so, okay. Now I threw these slides up here, and I'll have to walk to one of these to explain this. Can you hear me now? Okay, so this is a little bit of Google-esque type work I did last night to prepare for this. Here is Foods in Season. That was one of the buildings you saw previously in the slides. That's inside the Port District. It is 25 minutes or 17 and a half miles to PDX. Now, how many people fly on an airplane? That's a big deal to me. I go to the airport all the time. Now, if we fast forward this, oops, went too far. Let's pick on Washington County. How many people live in Washington County here? Okay, I used to live in Laurelwood. Do you know where that is? You can't get there from here, but okay, it's 41 minutes and 33 miles to the Portland airport from Hillsborough. I suffered through that too in the past. I actually missed airplanes and so forth. But the idea, a lot of people feel that Washougal was too far out. It's not. As a matter of fact, we have more per capita airline pilots live in Clark County. You know why? There's no income tax and they're close to the Portland airport and they can commute. That's no lie. You look it up. Clark County we've got pilots, man. We have them all over the place. So I just wanted to point out a few of those little facts there. So if you get a chance, come on out and take a look at what's going on at the port, because it's close and convenient. Okay, I'll probably just keep using this microphone. Okay, so now we'll jump ahead here. Okay, this is just a picture of the site. This piece of property that we're developing is 1.9 acres. It belongs to the port. It's in the Steigerwald Commerce Center, and we're looking to the east. Now you can see Mount Hood right there. So from the building, you got an awesome view of Mount Hood if you like that, and we're in the gorge. So another shot there, looking to the south. So you're looking across the Columbia River into Oregon there from the site. Here on the left is an existing building. This is what we call Foods in Season, which is a company that takes fresh seafood, pre-processes it for restaurants. And is that accurate, Dave? Is that a good way to put it? Now, they get fish off of the Alaska Airlines jets from Alaska. They pre-process it, put it back on the jet. It goes to Florida. So this is expensive fish, but it's a great business, and they're packed, and they've at least, 60% of your next building they're moving into, or half.
Real quickly, the thing about them,
Here, I'll use this.
just a little tidbit. They're a family-run business. A daughter, 2 sons, a mom and dad. They've grown so much in the last 2 years. The mom, who was the controller, stepped down. And they hired the head controller from New Seasons, which is from a grocery store chain. But $1.5 million last year in FedEx they paid. So they get visited regularly by FedEx. Here, you guys want to go to lunch? You guys want to go meet? But they ship to Europe. They ship to Asia. They were sending so much product to Vegas that they opened a warehouse there to hit all the restaurants there. I mean, it's a great success story. Started out in White Salmon, Washington, picking mushrooms, and that's still mushroom business is their biggest thing. About 2 months ago, Costco goes to them, hey, we want you to do morels. Can you package them in 1 little pound containers? John Anderson and Jared, the dad and the son, went out, found the machinery, packaging, had it in 2 weeks. 3 weeks they had product in Costco. And I remember hearing this, so I'm going through Costco, and I go, oh, here it is, FIS, Foods in Season. And it was amazing story. This company is just awesome. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, it is a great story. So you can see this building is a steel building, but it has architectural features that make it look much more attractive, similar to, and these are requirements in the Port District. You do have to meet a certain level of curb appeal for your building. But a steel building can be constructed fairly quickly and look very nice when it's done. So this is the building that Dave was just talking about that's opening at the end of this month. This is right across the street from our site. Very similar construction, steel frame construction. Okay, and then now we're at grade level on these buildings, so if you're going to put in a dock high area, they usually do a bay, dig down about 3 feet. And then the building is about 12 inches above grade, so you get enough height there for dock high. So plenty of room. Our lot is 1.9 acres. So let's see if we can get that. Okay, so we'll have 3-phase power. I'm an engineer, so I love technical stuff. 480 3-phase, 480 volt 3-phase is awesome, and here's why. Because 480 volt 3-phase, you can get 480 volts for your processing equipment. A lot of big machine shops that use CNC equipment, it's 48 volt 3-phase. You got to have that. But then we don't use that to run our computers and laptops and all that stuff. But off of this transformer, you can get 120 or 208. So it's all in one. It's great, and we have good power at the port. It's all underground, so there's no poles, which is nice. Okay, so the building that we're working on is 22,000 square feet. Could be a little more depending on how much mezzanine area we have in there. It's going to have community solar. There's a federal tax credit. I'm going to explain all that. We got the great business climate. We got power. It's inside the port. No state income tax. All that stuff. Okay. So this is a slide I took from Clark PUD. How many people live in Vancouver? Clark PUD is awesome. This community solar is a partnership between the community and the public utility district. Okay, so the PUD says, okay, we want more solar power. How are we going to do it? Well, I have a house, I have a meter, I could put a little solar panel on my house, maybe heat a pot of water or something, It's not a really big deal. But where they really make sense is where everybody pools their efforts together and they put in a big solar array, which you wouldn't want to have on your house, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to drive down the street and there's solar panels all over the place. I mean, they're on the garage, they're on the house, they're in the front yard. That kind of ruins the whole ambiance, thing. So we would do it in a port area is favorable to doing a community solar project. So let me explain what that is. So it looks something like this. On the rooftop of a building, it lends itself. These panels are designed to go on a rooftop. Not a lot of additional engineering involved. It will support it. But you have a lot of square footage, and the panels are benign. They don't really, there's no moving parts here. And we have a lot of roof area on these solar or industrial buildings for solar. So it lends itself to going on top of a building. Building already has power to it. If I put a solar array out south of town, where 205 and I-5 come together, that big solar array there that the state put in, that is the highest cost power you'll ever find in the world, because they had to build a support structure. They had to lay power lines out there. They had to do all this stuff in addition to putting up the solar array. So the costs are way high. So you can cut the cost about in half if you put it on top of an existing building. Okay, so that's the secret sauce to this solar stuff. If you can keep your costs down, it actually works. So these panels are made in the state of Washington. So to get these incentives that we're going to tell you about, which when I tell you about this, you're not going to believe me. You will not believe the words that are coming out of my mouth, but they're true. Everything I'm going to tell you is true, but you're still not going to believe me. Okay? It's so good that it's nuts. But anyway, here we go. So it's right here. Okay, this is a 60 kilowatt solar array. Okay, so 60 kW. It's not Bonneville Dam, but it's a decent amount of power when the sun is shining. Okay, so there's a factor there. Okay, and they do work when it's cloudy. You just don't get 60 kilowatts. Okay. So we have these Washington State solar incentives. So the state of Washington, in their infinite wisdom, decided we've got to help the solar industry. We've got to help them get going. We want them to make these panels in the state of Washington. So there's one manufacturer. They're in Bellingham, and they're making solar panels like they're going out of style. And so they're made in the state of Washington. So they qualify for this incentive, okay? For a 60 kW system, we want to have 16 participants. Okay, 16 participants could be anybody who is within the district of the PUD. So if you're in Portland, sorry, you can't get in on this deal. But you can only get $5,000 a year per person. So we split it up into 16 so we can get the maximum number of incentives for this project. Let me explain. Each person to join the community solar projects puts in approximately $14,000, okay? The first year, you get a 30% federal tax credit right off the bat. It's a credit. It's not a reduction in income. It's a credit. So that's $4,200. Who's quick with math? Subtract that from $14,000. You're at about $9,800 investment, okay? So let's just call it $10,000 for the, okay? So you're into this $10,000. Everybody kind of see the math there? You get $5,000 a year from the state of Washington for 4 years. Okay, I told you wouldn't believe me. Okay, so if that's the maximum you can get. So you design the solar array to produce that many credits for each participant. So that's not the whole package, that's each person, okay? That's part of this system. So the incentives are wild. Now, that doesn't count the power, okay? I told you wouldn't believe me. The power, because the building, the way our community solar is set up, because the building is hosting, let's say, this community solar project, the building gets the power for free. Okay, so they get 60 kW when the sun is shining for free, okay? Now, obviously, you're not going to just run your milling machines when the sun is shining, right? You're going to run them all the time. So we have what we call net metering, okay? So we are hooked to the grid. We are hooked to the PUD. We're a paying customer. So at night, we're pulling power off of the grid and using it. In the daytime, we're producing power, and we net that out. So we have 2 meters on this system. And I think I have a slide to explain that. Okay, here we go. This runs till 2020, 4 years. That's kind of the same thing I just talked about. Let's get to, okay, what is net metering? Okay, so we have 2 meters. One is right on the solar system. So all it does is measure how much solar power came out of the solar cells. That's what the incentives are based on, okay? So at the end of it, they come out and read the meter once a year. It's June 30th. They read the meter. They say, okay, you've produced this much, and by the way, we're paying you $1.08 per kilowatt hour. They do all the math and everything. That's $5,000 each for 16 people, okay? They do that every June until June 2020. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty neat. The other meter is what goes to the building. So if there was no one in the building, the meter would run backwards, okay? And if the meter runs backwards, the PUD pays you for the excess power that you didn't use in your building. Example, let's say we're closed on the Sunday or Sunday afternoon, the sun's shining, right? And it's cranking out all the 60 kW all day, but there's nobody in the building. That goes in and gets credited off the net meter. So, but that would be the owner of the building or the person who's paying the power bill. That's a better way to put it. Who's getting the bill every month for that meter actually realizes all that power. So it's very unique. It's very exciting. Now, this is authorized through 2020 by the state legislature. They have not reauthorized it past that. So there's 4 years. So at the end of 4 years, everybody's done. The solar panels stay on the building gets the solar panels and the power and everything in perpetuity. These have the estimated life of 15 years, okay? But they could go longer, we don't know. But so there's a benefit to doing this type of activity, especially if you have outside investment that is providing the capital to put this on your building. So it's almost one of these deals like, well, why wouldn't you do this? But you'd be shocked. You would be absolutely shocked at how many companies say, oh, that's too complicated for me. I don't want to do it. I don't. I'm just in the, making biscuit business. I'm not in the solar business. But if someone comes to them and says, okay, the community and the PUD will provide the power for you for free, then will you do it? Oh, heck yeah. I'll sign up for that all day long. All you got to let me do is put them on top of your building. The community solar takes care of the maintenance, takes care of all expenses, and the net to the building is free power, basically, 60 kW. So that's kind of how it works. And that's in the state of Washington, not in the state of Oregon. Now, it could be reauthorized, but they have one big problem in the state of Washington. You may have heard of it. It's called school finance. And my wife's a teacher, so I know a little bit about this. The teachers union sued the state for not funding schools to the level, and they won at the Supreme Court. Supreme Court told the legislature, hey, you got to solve this problem. The problem is that the court case that they won would take the entire budget of the whole state economy to pay what they want, which is undoable. So they're at an impasse right here, and they got to solve the school funding. Hence, they haven't reauthorized spending any more money on solar, but they probably will, but we won't know that for a couple years. So the limit to this existing program is 2020, so 4 years. Okay. Now, it has been going on for a while, so if you got in on it last year, instead of 20,000, you got 25,000. And if you got in the year before, you got 30,000 instead of... I told you, you wouldn't believe me. But when these go out, how it works is, because it's community solar, once these are published and you can get on them, they're gone in like 15 minutes. When you say, okay, you can buy a community solar allotment, you can be one of the participants, they're gone immediately. Now, because we're good guys, we'll let you know in advance when these will be out there, for those of you who live in Clark County or belong to the PUD. Okay. Back to, just to point out one last time where this building is. If you're looking at the Columbia River, there's Portland and Camas down there. We're looking at if I'm right in, actually it's this road right in here. This is an older picture. But that gives you an idea how much future development will be in the Port of Camas, Washougal. And as David mentioned, there's a lot of potential out here. And if solar gets reauthorized, that could be this whole area could be covered with solar panels and producing electricity and benefiting the tenants there. So anyway, I think that's about, we're getting about down there. Yeah, that's our contact information. We'll make sure you get a copy of this PowerPoint, and then we have questions. Does anybody have a question? There's one. You just have to get a bill from the PUD. Like you have a meter there. Okay. You can have property over there. Yeah. And so obviously they can't, how they do it is they send the check to you at your, let's say you had a house there. That's where they're going to send the check. You have to be a member of the PUD. Question?
How do they go about finding investors to invest in this group of solar?
Well, the PUD, what the PUD is, puts it on their website. They just say, this is coming up. We're going to announce this on this certain day. Once there has to be an agreement, the community solar is actually a separate entity, a group of investors, we'll call them. There's an agreement between them and the PUD. And once that agreement is put together, they say, okay, now we're going to allow participants to come into this. Their first one, we're sponsoring this one because we're providing the building, okay, and the support structure and so forth. Prior to this, they've done solar farms on the ground up at their service center up in North Clark County, and they have several KW up there. But they just allowed people in a lottery type fashion to get in on it, and they were snapped up right away. And those were at much higher cost. The payback wasn't that good because panels were higher. They were putting it on the ground. There was a lot of infrastructure expense to those. So this one is actually pretty attractive.
Do you have a backup system in case there's a failure on those panels?
Yeah, we're connected to the grid all the time. So it's even if the panels tripped off, you would not notice it in the building because you're tied in to the power grid. So it's really and it's monitored. So they do get alarms that, hey, something's wrong, you need to go reset this breaker or something like that. But it doesn't interrupt activity inside the building. Yes, sir.
So who ends up being responsible for the maintenance, repairs, and cleaning those?
The community solar organization. So out of that, all that incentive money and the money that they've put in, there's money set aside. Of the $14,000 that everybody puts in, there's money set aside to maintain and keep the system running. They basically clean them once a year. They go up and wash them. The panels do have a warranty. So there's not a lot of maintenance involved. It's a solid state system. There's no moving parts in the system, but there can be maintenance if something hits a panel and breaks it, it would need to be replaced. But they're basically 3 feet by 2 foot panels, so they're individual. Like if you break one, it doesn't take the whole system down. Yeah.
But you can't, are there subsets in there, or is it just a 2 by 3? That would be what you'd have to throw out.
Right, you take one panel out and replace it. They're on rails, so they're easily taken out and removed. But the maintenance is, and this is not new technology. I mean, it's been around quite a while, and they have a track record of maintenance. So there's not a big risk in there that, oh, my system was installed but it doesn't work. That's fairly low risk situation. Yeah, okay, good question. So each PUD is the way the program is designed, they have a certain percentage of their total load of electricity that they can have for community solar. So Seattle has already subscribed all their community solar that they can have. Okay, it's all, because they couldn't have 100% solar, they don't have that much money, to be paying these people $5,000 a year each, So, but Clark County, we were able to get the last segment of community solar that they have remaining. So after this project goes in, they can't do anymore. This is the last one. Unless their capacity grows. In other words, if they were serving more customers and had more load, then they would get more allotment from the state of Washington, so they could allow more. So this, between now and 2020, it looks like this is about it for Clark County, this particular project. But it's been quite successful, and they will reauthorize it if they can find the money. Take care of the teachers, find some money somewhere. I'm a taxpayer too. I know it sounds crazy, but the incentives, that's what they're trying to do, create jobs in making these solar panels. That's where their job creation payoff is, apparently. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying this is how this works. Yes, sir.
It's also important to note if the landowner of the tenant is paying for those solar panels, that's 5-year property all day long. So you appreciate that.
Yeah,
5 years.
I'm glad you brought that up.
5-year all day long.
I am not an accountant, and I don't give tax advice. But you're right. I mean, site improvements can be depreciated quicker, and
That's 15.
yeah, yeah.
Solar panels are 5 years, so you fully depreciate that item outside of all the benefits this fine gentleman was talking about. You get to depreciate that over 5 years. End of story.
Excellent. Good point. So with that, any other questions? Yes, sir.
So Eric, the ultimate impact to you as the building owner and your tenants is what?
Okay, impact to the building owner. Good question. Why would we want to do this? One, it's different. It's unique. You know, plus the power. The power rates are stable right now. We have plenty of power in the Northwest because of these incentives. The wind incentives, I don't know if you've studied that one. That's even worse. I mean, or better, if you want to call it that, if you're a taxpayer. All these wind farms, I mean, it's insane. My brother-in-law works at PGE. He trades power. He's about to retire. He survived the whole Enron thing. And he said there's certain periods of time when these windmills are producing at such high rates that BPA will come to PGE and say, we will pay you to take our water power, because they have to take the wind power first. This is a political thing. I won't call it a crime, but it's one of those things that we get ourselves into where here's BPA saying, I have power. I have to let the water go down the stream. No one can take it because we're producing this priority power, which we're paying 10 times for. Will you take my power if I pay you to take it? And that's tempting if you're PGE, because they're not reducing our rates. But the point is, we get to keep that solar array on our building. In the end, the building owner receives the benefits of it after the 4-year period and can continue to use it if they like, sell the power back to the PUD if they like, or use all the power. It's basically a hedge, on what's going to happen with power and incentives. Now, to give you an idea about the math on this, if you have a 25,000 square foot building, okay, and let's say you had a flat roof, okay, we can do the math. It's 25,000 square feet of roof, right? Okay, how much of the roof we're using on this building? 5,000 square feet to generate 60 kW. So we can put more on there if they reauthorize in the future. So infrastructure-wise, we want to plan for that so that we could take advantage of that later, because you can have more than one community solar project. Eventually, if that building was completely covered with solar panels, we would never have to pay for power ever. We'd actually generate more than we could use. So there's a potential for that. So I know it doesn't make economic sense to the average person, but with the incentives, and that's what they're there for, it makes huge sense. And so we just want to make you aware of that, and it's a little bit different. The building, we expect to have this building completed by the fall of this year. I know that's fast, but we're in the middle of permits and so forth right now, and we think with the environment we have in Washougal and Camas that we can get it done. The weather window out there last year was a great year for building because of the weather. We think we can get it up and running this fall. So we're pretty excited. And if you need more information or you'd like to talk to us about it, we'd love to talk. And this would be the first of, we'd like to do more buildings, of course, in that land that's available out there. So is that it, I think, or we're good? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. So just I'm going to take 1 second. This presentation came about because Eric came into my office and he was talking about bringing investors into the project, and I'm sitting there listening to the project, listening to the solar components, listening to the building, hearing about the Port District and what's going on, and I thought, you know what, we got to get this in as a presentation. I think it's different. It was a region that we hadn't heard much about. I want to thank you very much for coming in. But if you've got an idea for a great presentation, please get it to me or one of the other people on my presentation committee, because we want to give you guys great presentations this year. He's going to kick my tail if we don't. So I want to make sure we're giving you stuff that really it feeds into what's going to help you get your job done. And I'm looking forward to great 2016. And thank you guys for coming in and presenting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.